The essential is going to be what you want out of life, what you feel, what you're searching for. Hey, welcome. My name is EJ. I'm a mindset and manifestation coach, and I wanted to share some information that I received out of the Thomas Troward book, The Hidden Power. Now, The Hidden Power is a great book, and it was written in the early 1900s by Thomas Troward. And we're going to discuss a little bit about his chapter called Touching Lightly. So this is chapter 9 in The Hidden Power by Thomas Troward. And if you're new here and you would like to subscribe and learn more about manifestation, mindset, and coaching to help you be your best self, then please subscribe, hit that bell button, and allow yourself to really enjoy the journey and learn so much more about yourself and create a better version. Thomas starts with the chapter Touching Lightly. He says, what is our point of support? Is it in ourselves or outside of us? And immediately, right out the gates, you start to understand where he might be going. Are we externally looking for ourselves as defining what we are and our potential by looking outwardly? Or are we looking inwardly? Is it ourselves? Is it our higher power? Is it what we want to have in the world based upon what's coming from inside? Or are we only defining ourselves from what our results are or what's going on around us or our family or our past selves and the circumstances that we're living in? Now, I wrote a note here. I said, we are a part of God, meaning God is in us. Okay, you could say source, universe, intelligence, whatever you'd like. And that I wrote, count on yourself. We need to look no further for communication with God. It's in ourselves. We're a part of God. And so we're expression of God. And it's important to understand that we don't need to look elsewhere for our higher power, our higher self to be broadcast and explored within or without. It's broadcast from us. And he goes on to say, are we self-poised, or does our balance depend on something external? According to the actual belief, and I love this line here, according to the actual belief in which our answer to these questions is embodied, so will our lives be. And I underlined, according to actual belief, so will our lives be. So it's going to depend upon what you believe in your heart and what you're consenting with. And if you're going to believe that it is external, then so be it. It's going to be external. It's not going to be something that you're going to utilize from the inside out, as one of my great mentors said before, but it's going to be the outside in. And that's the wrong way to think about it. But so many of us do use the external to tell us what's going on internally. Now, Thomas goes on to say, in everything there are two parts, the essential and the incidental. That which is the nucleus and the raison d'etre of the, pardon the I don't speak French, so pardon the pronunciation there, of the whole thing. And that which gathers round the nucleus. And as far as I know, the raison d'etre is the cause, okay? And leading up to something. But I could be wrong, so tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. And that which gathers round this nucleus and takes from it. The true knowledge always consists in distinguishing these two from each other, and error always consists in misplacing them. So we need to get to the heart of things and base our decisions and our value and what we want out of life from the heart of things, not from the external version, the circumstances, and as Thomas calls them, the incidental. You need to go to the essential. That's what he means by the nucleus. The essential is going to be you. The essential is going to be what you want out of life, what you feel, what you're searching for. Now, sometimes we don't know what we're searching for, but the search for it in general is going to cause you to have a different attitude. It's going to have a different outcome because you're finally looking for answers. You're not looking everywhere else for them, but looking within for them, and you start to understand yourself so much better. But if you get to the nucleus, then the incidental appears and it will serve you. And you have to understand that it's not the other way around. In another book I was reading is that we get and this was by Dr. Joe Dispenza, that we get the master and the servant mixed up. And what Dr. Joe means by that is the master is our spirit, okay? Our higher power, ourselves. And then the servant is the ego and the body. The body is serving us, but often we let the ego and the body decide how the master is going to feel, our mind, our spirit, and so many people get that mixed up. I mean, I know I have, and I could absolutely say there's plenty of times where I focused on the outside. I mean, millions of times in my life, I focused on the outside for the validation of the inside. And that's the victimization of getting those mixed up. So make sure you're putting yourself as the essential and everything else as the incidental, or as I say, the circumstantial. But Thomas continues in paragraph 2, in all affairs there are two factors, ourselves and the matter to be dealt with. And that's the essential and the incidental. Ourselves and the matters to be dealt with. And since for us the nature of anything is always determined by our thought of it. Let's read that again, because I think that particular phrase, that sentence there, is tremendously important. He says, since for us the nature of anything is always determined by our thought of it. Okay? So I wrote in here, thought and agreement, or I wrote so small, or consent. Thought and agreement or consent with it becomes belief. And how many of you ever had that, where you consent to something and then it comes true? Where maybe you don't want something to happen, but because you're believing or thinking about it or investing emotionally, such as, I really don't want this to happen. Man, I'd be in trouble. That would be difficult. That would cause a lot of strife in my life. That comes to fruition because you put a lot of energy on it. And that's what manifestation's all about, is putting energy in something and then experiencing it in the reality of it. So he says, it is entirely a question of our belief which of these two factors shall be essential and which the accessory, circumstantial. Okay? Whichever we regard as the essential, the other at once becomes the incidental. The incidental can never be absent. For any sort of action to take place, there must be some condition under which the activity passes out into visible results. So the incidental, he's saying here, can't be absent. You can't have the essential without what I call the circumstantial, or the incidental, as Thomas puts it, happening around you. The circumstances, the incidental, are always going to be a product of the thought and the things that you've been putting out in the world. and the actions that you're taking. You are the essential, and what you're thinking, feeling, and saying, and taking action upon is going to bring about specific incidents. It's going to bring about everything around the nucleus, feeding on that energy, feeding on that essential version, that version of you that you're either playing a role as or the true self. But and I'll mix in here with Dr. Joe. We have to understand that there's things that we want to let go of. And we don't want those things in our life anymore. So if we're mixing up the value of the incidental or the circumstantial, outside things beyond ourselves, and we're creating a version of us around that, but it's not what you want, then you're not allowing yourself to be the version of the being that you want to be. You're preventing the real you from shining because you've memorized, you've focused in on the things that you don't want, and now you've created a role for yourself around it. And I, for one, won't stand for that. I've dealt with so many pains, lack, difficulties, lack in finances, lack in love, so many different things in my life. And it causes a lot of pain. But until you face that, then you're going to continue to ride that hamster wheel until you truly decide to say, I've been experiencing this, and it's the incidental, it's the outside, it's the circumstantial, it's the pattern of thought that you've been rotating around and around and around. But until you really start to focus on you as the essential, as the cause, and take responsibility for it all, then you're not actually going to create any difference in your life. You might change some circumstances around you, but you won't change you. And you will continue to experience that in one way, shape, or form. So we have to look at our essential being. What do we want? What have we been experiencing? Is this a pattern? How do I show up? These type of questions are things that you can ask yourself to understand, am I truly basing all of my results and my value and my life upon the outside circumstances? Whether they're good, bad, or neutral, are you? Or are you really looking within and saying, hey, I can do what I want to do. I just have to recreate that version of myself. And Thomas Troward's Hidden Power book could definitely help you with this. I'm going to dive into more paragraphs about Thomas Troward a little bit later, but I wanted to introduce myself and start to give you so much more feedback of the journey that I've been taking in self-discovery and self-development, manifestation, and mindset from my entrepreneurial career, and finding, I went through a school of hard knocks to find out what I was really made of. And I had to get rid of a lot of fears. Now, I still have fears. They come up constantly. I'm just a student. Some of my most famous mentors that I've worked with, they're just students. We're all just beings helping each other get along, but some are further along the path. So if you want to understand more about yourself and allow my knowledge of over 5 years in understanding mindset and understanding manifestation to help you to further along your path and create a better life, a better you, and make so much more value in your heart and on the outside for your family, your friends, yourself, then feel free to connect with me. Please subscribe, and I look forward to chatting with you guys very soon. I hope you all have an incredible day. Create it to be your very best. Take care, guys.